What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Social Media Mindset. Maybe this is your first time. Welcome, not back, but just welcome. We are glad that you are here, and you are in for a treat because you chose an incredible episode to listen to where I get to interview not just someone who's awesome, but someone who is truly a good friend of mine that I enjoy spending time with. I've got Tamara with lawyer's title, and you are, let me try to get this right, the director of Collin County Sales.
Good job.
I did it. Come on. And Tamara, I'm so excited for this episode because I've never had anyone on that's in your role and in your world. And you were quite the cookie to try to get to do. You were a tough cookie with just buying into social media and video. And so before we jump in, like, just, say hi to everybody, tell us about yourself, and then we're going to go.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be on the show today. Thank you, Kyle, for allowing me to be your guest. I know that you're particular about who you let on. So I'm having a proud moment here that I get to be your guest. Again, my name is Tamara. I'm the director of Collin County Sales for Lawyers Title. I have been in real estate. This is my 13th year in real estate, but I've always been in an affiliate role, service to my clients, which are realtors and lenders. And so, when I came on board with Lawyers Title, part of what a lot of title reps do is become coaches for their clients, and they help them figure out ways to build their business. And so, we already had the partnership with you when I came on board. And so you and I connected pretty quickly. And it really was starting to go down that journey of how do we help our realtors become more successful at what they're doing. And we both know that video is a big hindrance for them. And it was for me at first too. I was very good at doing social media. I checked in everywhere I went and got all the likes and posted pictures and did all that fun stuff, but I didn't have any video content. And so, we started working together, and I'll tell you, it was probably shelter in place when I started. So March 2020 is when I started my video journey, because we were forced to be on video. And so all of our classes and all of our interaction with our clients became either on the phone or text or via Zoom.
Right.
And so I'm very comfortable doing public speaking. I have spoken in front of 2 people and 1,000 people. And so platforms aren't necessarily, speaking engagement platforms aren't necessarily a hindrance for me, but video kind of changes things, and I think the ability to watch yourself on video, you don't see yourself when you're standing in front of 1,000 people.
That's right.
But when you start videoing yourself, you have the ability to play it back and look at it and see it when it's on social media. And so it can be very intimidating.
So I want to dig into that intimidation, because this is where, and you know this, right? This is where all the listeners struggle, right? Is that's the initial battle, is overcoming ourselves. And so, like, I know, you and I, you're so funny, because like, I'll be talking about like trying to kind of nurture people and like help them feel better. And then you'll be like, they just need to get the freak over it. I just don't know why people need to be like coddled and babied and, pat on the back. And so anybody that knows you is probably laughing right now. What for you, because there's a ton of people out there with your type A personality that is like, okay, if this is what I have to do, I'm just going to freaking do it. How did that happen for you? What was it that you were just like, screw it, I'm just going to go for it?
Well, I was really forced to, because our way of communication changed, right? And so once I started hopping on Zoom classes and doing more public speaking via Zoom, it just became the more you do it, the more comfortable you are, right?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, the first time I ever got on a stage to do a sales presentation, I was going to pee my pants. I was so scared, and I'm sweating.
Oh my gosh,
and I'm shaking, me too. And I wasn't sure about what I was going to talk about, and was I going to say the right thing? And so I made my general manager, he was not allowed to leave me for 6 months after I started the job because I was scared I'd get asked a question that I didn't know the answer to. But, you know, you learn to say, I don't know. And I don't know is a perfectly acceptable answer. And then the other part of that is I'll find out and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
So just becoming confident that you're not going to have to, you know, you're going to be okay if you say something that, you know, needs a little further explanation or you mess up, and really just, you just got to change your mindset. And it's really like, for me, it's just, I'm going to do this right now, the end. And then I do it.
100%. It has to be that way, because you don't get to wake up tomorrow and look different than we look today. It's not possible.
And I think, you know, what you say all the time about your people know you, love you, they already like you for who you are, is a really big deal. So I've seen myself on videos and I'm having a bad hair day, or my makeup looks a little weird, or that color I'm wearing, oh my goodness, you know, there's stuff I've put in the closet, I'm like, I'm never gonna wear that again. But you know, you just kind of have to own it, you know, and it is, you're human, and it's not always going to be perfect, but neither is my sales presentation. You know, there's sometimes where I get off stage, I'm like, nailed it. And then there's some times that I get off stage, I'm like, well, that could have been better.
Yeah. Well, talk to me about, like, how do you plan out your content? Like, what you're going to talk about in a video. I know, you know, it's not as recent as it feels in my head, but you've been doing a podcast.
Yep.
For what? Close to a year now?
Not quite that long, maybe 9 months.
A little less? Yeah. So talk to the listeners just about, like, how do you do your content? How do you decide what you're going to talk about? And we may even jump into some podcast stuff soon, because that's just such an easy way to grab video content without feeling like you're staring into a camera lens.
I spend a lot of time paying attention to what other people want to know about. I am constantly talking to my clients. We're sitting in social situations, you know, or we're sitting in business situations, and I listen to what people ask about or what they're interested in. And then I watch trends that are happening on social media. What are realtors wanting to know about? What are lenders wanting to know about? So I spend a lot of time, I do it so often, so much now, I don't even think about it. And so that for me is really the resource for gathering topics, because my consumer of my podcast are realtors and lenders. So definitely want to be doing things that'll speak to them. And then every once in a while, I'm a little bit selfish. I'm about to put out a podcast that I did on second homes, owning second homes, vacation homes, broken bows specifically, because I wanted to know more about broken bows.
Yeah. But that's, to me, that's such an undervalued way to do content. Is I know a topic that I want to learn about, so I'm going to do content about it, because that's going to force me to go learn more about it and learn it at a level that I can then turn around and teach. And so I think that's a brilliant strategy.
Well, it was, you know, that, like I said, I've done a couple of selfish ones. I wanted to learn more about YouTube, so I had someone who I look up to in the YouTube world on the show. But like I said, most of the time it's what will bring value to my clients, because what I do is really about education and servicing my clients. So that's kind of how I gather content. I stay away from political conversations. I stay away from religious conversations. As an affiliate in the business and being a salesperson, I'm Switzerland. I can't, I don't have opinions about things. Yeah. So that is definitely, you know, making sure that I navigate past those potential landmines of bad content, you know, or things that could get me, you know, in trouble with people who feel different ways about different things. Is really important. So I just stick to what'll educate for the most part.
And so talk about, like, why did you ultimately choose, you know, because in the title world, I don't see any title companies like doing podcasts. You know, that's not normal. Y'all chose to do that as Lawyers Title, maybe because you also have me, and I might have had a small role in that. Yeah. What has surprised you in a good way as you've done like more and more podcast episodes?
Surprised me. I mean, I think, having some people on that would not normally ever step into that world. I just had 2 of my escrow officers on the show. Took a little nudging.
and it did a little nudging. It took a lot of nudging.
Yeah, but there might have been some blowouts that had to happen before.
But you and I were just talking before I hit record on this episode. That's the most engaged of any episode that you've ever had as far as likes and shares and comments.
By a long shot.
And so this is a great place, I think, to pause and tell the listeners, like, guys, the people that are begging to come on your show might not always be the right guest. It's the person that's like, no, I don't want to do it. Like, because that if you get them, it's not going to be about them. They're not going to, just toot their own horn all the time. They're going to actually say good stuff. And that's what happened with Rachel and Kelly.
Absolutely. And look, I always have a pre-podcast discussion with whoever's going to be on the show on Mondays. I usually record at 11 o'clock on Thursdays. That's my slotted time. And so we really had a lot of pre-podcast discussion about what we were going to talk about, because again, we wanted to educate, but there's a lot of things that have to happen inside of the contract to close process that, we may not necessarily need to air, right? And so we want to make sure that what we're talking about is following the rules of the contract, and that we're, which my girls do anyway, but it's really about making sure that we're talking kind of in a very educational general platform, because there's a lot of things within each contract to close process that could change, right? So we had to have a lot of conversation about what we were going to talk about, what we were going to stay away from. And so, but I think that it was something that our audience really wanted. It was clear that they spoke. The listeners spoke because they engaged with the content. And so,
and it's
such those podcasts, those pre-podcast discussions, about what you're going to talk about is huge. And I'll tell you one thing that is a challenge for me is sometimes I love my realtors, but and even my lenders, we all like to talk about ourselves for the most part.
What?
And how great we are.
Of course.
And so, I really have had a challenge with a couple of guests getting to the meat. Like, how do you get past all that surface posturing, and how do you get to the meat? And you and I have talked about that several times. And I had a straight up conversation with one of my guests saying, this is an interview. You have to pause and let me ask a question. And they just kept going about how great they were. And while Kyle, I never made them disappear like you do, like where the podcast just.
I don't know what happened to it. It just, the recording got messed up.
That one might not have gotten promoted as much as some of the others.
Well, and I think we need to take this moment to just really help like people listening, like create content that serves people. Nobody wants to watch 8 minutes of me talking about how awesome I am. My own wife doesn't want to watch that. Right? Maybe my mom would watch it, but that's it. Right? Like, people want to have value added to their lives. And when you say something that I go, oh, wow, I've never thought about that way. Boom. Like, you just locked in a place in my brain that I'll always remember Tamara, because she was the one that helped me have that realization.
Well, and then it's not necessary to talk about how great you are, because you just positioned yourself as the expert. And I think that's the really big golden nugget out of this is you're on my podcast because you are an expert. You don't need to tell everybody that you're an expert. And if you're not providing value, how to overcome challenges, or what is a common thread in what you're dealing with every day, and how you went to solve the problem, stuff like that. If you're not doing things like that and you're just posturing, it doesn't make for good content. And again, you've positioned yourself as the expert in how great you are going to be to your clients by providing them with information that they can use.
It seems like it should be so simple.
Now, might be a few egos in real estate.
Just a couple. And what I want to touch on before we get off this subject is, when you look at the content you did with Rachel and Kelly, the topic of conversation wasn't like exhilarating and like the coolest story. It was an incredibly necessary part of the process that a lot of people just don't understand. Right. So I think sometimes we get so fixated on like, I want to be cool. It needs to be trendy and edgy. When the reality is like, if we would just educate people on what we do every day that we find boring, they'll find interesting because they don't do your job.
Agreed. I mean, there was a big change in one of the, tax laws this year that affected a lot of buyers. And so just having a quick conversation about what the new law is, what they needed, what's changed from last year to this year, provided a lot of information to people who hadn't seen it or didn't know. And
right.
To anyone else, it would be super boring, but I don't want to pay taxes.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of that. Yeah.
So anything that, can save me money on paying the tax man is, great information, but the realtors can all take it and use it with their buyers. So it was a really good kind of value.
So can you pull back the curtain on, like, with Kelly and Rachel specifically, because that's your most recent content that I've seen. Did you do any kind of coaching with them in terms of like being in front of the camera and, those sorts of things?
Absolutely, because you walk into the room where you're going to do the recording and there's cameras, 360 cameras, right? And there's microphones.
It's intimidating.
And where do you look? And, just where do you look? And so, I've changed the way that I'm doing my podcast recently. I went from very much an interview, Oprah Winfrey style podcast, TV show looking thing to what looks more like a radio show. And I had to do a lot more tee up with my guests when it was the interview style Oprah Winfrey room, because you walk in and you're sitting on a stage and there's all these lights and there's all these cameras and where do you look and all the things. And it's really intimidating. Whereas the studio that I'm currently using is much more relaxed. And so it's opening up the podcast to be more conversational style and less interview. And it's giving me an opportunity to insert myself and my knowledge as well, where the interview style didn't really have that flexibility.
Right.
So it's much more relaxed. It's really much more comfortable for my guests. So we just kind of, I tell them what to expect and what it's going to look like. And then, until you get there, you really don't have a feel for it.
Yeah.
But sitting down at a round table with some microphones and just telling them, hey, you need to look here. And let's just make sure that, we have an opportunity for everybody to talk and, kind of those sorts of parameters it's a lot easier than it was before.
Yeah. And I think that's great advice for anybody that isn't currently doing much content. The more casual you can get the environment to feel, where you just bring guests in and just say, hey, we're going to have a conversation. I'm not going to steer it. We know this law changed, right? We know this thing is different. So let's just have a conversation about it and just kind of see where it goes. That's the way that I treat this podcast, right? Like you preached about loving your pre-show. I don't really do any pre-show.
We never do a pre-show about anything.
And so we never have ever. And that's a great tip, I think, which is don't overthink this stuff. Get up and do it.
I will challenge that a little bit.
Yes, please.
I feel like it's really easy for you and I to get on and just wing it because we know what we're talking about and we're comfortable on camera.
Yeah.
But I still find it necessary to at least do a quick little outline. I prefer to have 5 or 6 bullet points of broad topics that I want to talk about pertaining to the subject, just in case the conversation lags, because you can't rely on your guest to continue the conversation.
Sure.
You're really still leading it. And so I find it necessary to have something planned out for the most part.
Yeah, it 100% saves the guest that isn't super talkative, that's just going to kind of be like, okay, I answered that question and now I'm just going to stare at you. Right? Like, so that's huge. because there are a lot of people that don't know how to kind of redirect in that moment. And it's just really weird and awkward.
You don't want that weird pause and everybody's looking around going, what's next?
But there is definitely no weird and awkward when we're doing content together.
No, we have the best time. I mean, you were on one of our classes yesterday and I was on the class, I need a CE hours. So that's why I was there.
That's why you were there. Gosh dang it. I thought you were just there because you cared about me.
Yeah, no, I had an ulterior motive, I'll be honest.
Unbelievable.
You did bring up that we do a lot of content together, and different guests can get you to be different ways too. And I thought that was really, a big deal that you brought up, because doing a video with you has always been easier for me than doing a video with anyone else. And you bring out the lighter side of me, whereas most of the time I'm a pretty, business savvy, business driven individual, and it comes across that way. So I'll have to tell you that video that we did in front of in Lance Taylor's office, the last one that we did about content. I have watched that thing like 5 million times. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And every once in a while I think about it, I go watch it again. It's only 10 minutes.
I haven't even seen it. I don't even remember it. I don't even remember ever seeing it.
Well, guess what you need to do then? You need to get onto my YouTube channel and subscribe and scroll down, and you'll see it in my video content.
Okay. I will see it. And guess what, guys? We're going to have Tamara's YouTube channel in the show notes. So right now, as you're hearing this, it's down below. Go click it. Go subscribe, because you put out great content.
Well, I help a sister out. I've got 16 subscribers. I'm trying so hard, but it's really, YouTube is a new frontier for me for sure.
Yeah.
And, I've been doing a lot of studying on YouTube, as a matter of fact, trying to figure out how to increase visibility and, just get my content out a little bit more. So I expect my subscribers to jump by at least 3 people because of this.
Oh, come on, guys. We can get 3. Let's talk about this, because we just said, 16 subscribers. Talk to people about overcoming, right? Like, we're doing this work. It takes work. This isn't easy. And then, you have 16 subscribers. So how do the listeners continue to overcome putting in the work, even though they may not be growing as quick as they want, even though a video they thought was awesome gets three likes? How do you personally overcome that?
Well, I'll tell you this. My audience is primarily on Facebook. I mean, I have 4,500 friends on Facebook. So that's where my client database is. And I know that. And so I always stay focused on putting things on Facebook. IG is kind of the second one. And then YouTube is just something that I've been playing with and trying to, explore how to keep growing with it. But I know that my content's viewed on Facebook. It's really funny because I use Kyle's content compounding service. So all of my podcasts go to Kyle's service, and they do all my micro content, which gets posted onto all my social media platforms. And I'm telling you, without my micro content, I would be a big bag of nowhere. Okay.
That's right.
I would probably be a 1 subscriber on YouTube. So the content compounding.
So you heard it here first, guys. We got her 15 whole subscribers. Woo woo.
Well, I'll tell you what has happened is, everybody sees my micro content, but nobody's going to watch the full podcast on YouTube yet. And it's really funny because I will tell you, I don't see a high amount of engagement a lot of times from the micro content, but I will tell you, I have gotten so many people that have said, I'm watching your podcast. I'm like, no, you're not. You're watching the micro content, but I hear what you're saying. And so I get a lot of, it is positioning me as an expert on a very big platform. And I've noticed that while I am continuing to try to increase engagement, I can see that it isn't really all that necessary, because people are seeing what we're doing and what I'm doing. And I've gotten, people reaching out, can I be your guest? I get people all of the time that says, I'm watching your stuff. It's really great. Didn't know you had a podcast.
It's so frustrating. But it works, right? We teach this right in our classes. It's the shadows of social media. I got a new client yesterday. He's a lender in Idaho, And we start the conversation with, he's like, I just have to tell you, man, I have been following you for a year. I saw that your car didn't start at the airport a few weeks ago. And he started rattling off just different storylines from my videos. He's never shown up in my newsfeed ever. And it's so frustrating until they give you their money. And then it's not. And so that's the power of I think, continuing to do it. And even just for you, like one of the things that I'm so proud of you for is all of the reps at LT have had the opportunity to do what you're doing. But you're the one that was like, if y'all are going to provide this for us, I'm going to go all in and I'm going to crush this thing. And, this wasn't the goal, but it's turned into the Tamara Gady show because you're the one that's
the goal.
Well, but you're the one that was actually willing to put in the work.
Well, I see a lot of people doing videos, and there's no wrong way to do something. I'm not trying to say
not
that.
True,
Don't
but
take this
I understand
the wrong way. But I have access to a professional studio where I have the ability to look as good as I ever can on video. So why not take advantage of it?
Yeah.
Plus, it gives me an opportunity to shine the spotlight on some people that have been extremely loyal to us and that have really valuable things to say. And then the challenge that I'm working through right now is, how do I take this and convert it into contracts in my office? And so that my escrow team also gets to benefit from what I'm doing, because that's really the goal at the end of the day is, it's great to put out video, but I need it to also have another arm to what it can do. And that's profitability for my branch.
So let's talk this out for a moment live on podcast because everybody has this struggle, right? To me, one of the absolute simplest ways to recognize the conversion is to add a question when you get a contract from a realtor that you haven't really worked with, right? That you add a question in somewhere that says, just curious, why did you choose to give your business to Lawyer's Title to Tamara? And so I don't think we ask that enough, because some of those people are going to start saying, well, I've been following Tamara for a while and consuming her content. I just woke up one day and was like, why have I never given her a shot? And there's people like that. But when we don't ask, we default back to, oh, they text you, and a text message doesn't get related back to social media. An email doesn't get related back to social media. So sometimes it just takes a little bit deeper of a dig to truly understand like where that person came from.
Well, and I think that's a good idea because, I have gotten an influx of requests to be my friend on Facebook, and I'm like, I don't know this person.
Yeah.
And then also we have recently seen an influx of contracts coming into our office, and my escrow team's like, where did this come from?
Sure.
So,
yeah.
It is a good question to ask. And I do always ask them to ask that question.
Right.
But, I can take kind of a bigger lead on it too, and just ask the question myself. So
sure.
Try to start seeing if any of this stuff is paying off into revenue.
Well, and let's even go further back before the actual transaction and go, when you get these new Facebook requests or Instagram follows and they're realtors in Dallas, Fort Worth, to just shoot them a quick DM and go, what's up, Tamara? Thank you so much for connecting. How did we get connected?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Right. And so the moment somebody goes, well, I so-and-so shared one of your videos, well, boom, instantly, if that person ever gives me a contract, the reason they're here is because they saw a video of mine.
Great idea.
I'm full of ideas. Great ideas. I might have already hit my quota for the day. So I might hang it up after we finish this episode.
It's hard to be you.
Well, so it is hard, but it's not hard when I bring on awesome people. That's why I do this. So I want to kind of tie a pretty bow on this episode of your awesomeness with when you're meeting with your realtor partners that are struggling with just social media in general. What are some of the tips that you give to kind of help them be better, get over themselves, right? Anything.
Well, I mean, I used to, okay, so it's kind of a bigger question, but I'll be quick.
You don't have to be quick.
That
this is your episode.
Coach agents. And I tried to be a coach when I first came on board with lawyers, and it really wasn't working for me. I am a networker and a connector, and I add value because I recognize what your pain point is, and then I go find the person that can help you relieve that pain point.
Right.
And it isn't necessarily me. It's hardly ever me. And so I have experts at my, in my phone that I can dial or text or whatever and say, hey, I need you to help this realtor get off the ground with some of these things. And so for a long time, I was leaning on you to do one-on-ones with these people and really just kind of coach them through it. But, here's the thing, Kyle, we spent a lot of time doing those things and then they never did anything.
Right.
So kind of redirecting, I think, lately, ever since the video that I just referenced, where we started giving content ideas, that's really a big, big deal for them because they don't know what to talk about. And when you first start doing this, you don't know what to talk about. And then after you keep doing it, you find opportunity everywhere. And so that was proof in our last video that we did together, because we gave ideas about, taking these posts that people just post on social media and turning them into a video content. And it was really, really funny because we talked about winterizing. This was obviously, it was like February or something.
Yeah.
When we did this, and it was cold, and we were talking about winterizing your home. And so that we used that as a content idea. And the next day, one of my realtor husband and wife teams did a video on how to put those hose bib covers on your house. And, and something that sounds so simple and you would think people would know how to do, they got a ton of engagement on social media for it. So I think what I've kind of really shifted to as far as helping people is concerned is providing them with content ideas. And every time I've met with a realtor and said, you could talk about this and you could talk about this, they're like, hey, hang on, let me get my pen and paper and start writing it down. So now, still haven't seen them do it.
But they're thinking about it, which is kind of part of the battle.
Someone that we did a coaching call with, and she started doing a series on social media, super easy, at her house with her iPhone, and that was it. And I think she posted like 4 or 5 or 6 videos, and she got listings out of it.
Yeah.
And then poof, she stopped. And I'm like, wait, it worked.
Isn't it? But isn't that just life, right? The things that get us to the next level tend to be the first things we stop doing once we get to that level. It's so fascinating. That's like it's a whole nother conversation about the weirdness of humans.
One important thing to note, though, is your content it cannot be negative content.
Yeah.
And so I think that's super important. I unfortunately have a client that's doing a series, and the title is negative. And so I don't think that it's being really received as well as it could be if she put together kind of a more neutral or positive title. So I think that's really, really important. It's okay to talk about challenges,
right,
and how to overcome challenges, but you have to stay positive in what you're presenting.
I totally agree. We already live in a world that's just so negative and pessimistic in general. And so if I can be a brighter light, I stand out so much more as like, I love watching Tamara's content. I always learn something. I always end up a better version of myself. Like, isn't that what we want people to say? Versus like, man, I watch Tamara's videos and like, I just want to go sleep. Like that's not what we want.
I need a cocktail after I watch your video.
I watch Tamara's video and I go get in a fight with my wife. Like that's not what we want. And so I think that's it. I think that's a huge point. I love it. And so, Tamara, obviously after this episode, you're probably gonna have hundreds of subscribers to your YouTube channel and tons of friend requests. And so what's the best way for listeners to connect to you?
Social media. as long as you know how to spell my name, you can find me on any of the platforms.
And we will have all of them linked in the show notes.
That would be great. Yeah, guys, go check it out. We worked really hard to put out some really good content for all of our viewers. And so we want to make sure it's not, first and foremost, it's about providing value. And so I think that we've done a really good job of identifying content that would help a lot of people. And so let's just start there and the rest of it will come.
100%. And can I say, this has been one of my favorite episodes.
No way. You're just saying that because you're looking at me right now.
No, I'm not. Go listen to all of them. Okay. I haven't said it on very many.
Well, I feel special today.
So thank you for joining me on the show.
Thanks for joining me on my show. And I need to get you back on there here pretty quick. I'm sure we have some things we need to talk about.
In the new studio. I'm definitely down for the new studio.
I might have a couple of you guys that have coaching businesses come in and talk all at the same time.
Let's do it. Let's roundtable it with lots of people.
I think that'd be great. Well, not
so
lots,
fun
because there's a lot of A personalities. We have to be careful. Never get a word in. That's
fine. We can fight through those people. But guys, y'all aren't here to just listen to us ramble in the end of this thing. So thank you for listening. I hope you found at least one nugget. If you didn't, go listen again, because there were plenty of them in there. And we will be back real soon with another cool person with an even cooler story. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks, Kyle.